that. Now, one of the country's leading pensions providers has criticised the government's planned cap on pension management fees as being too high. Legal & General has broken ranks with the rest of the industry and publicly announced that it thinks the government's intended limit on those fees levied by savers by the industry is still too generous. Well, the government believes that the industry could be charging too much and suggests capping those costs at 0.75%. However, Legal & General thinks this should instead be 0.5%. Well, earlier, the Pensions Minister, Steve Webb, told me why the government needs to be wary of setting the cap too low.
We want competition in the market, and if you have a really low charge cap, you might only have one or two providers, and in the long run, that's not healthy. Some people argue that if you pay a bit more, you might get a better value scheme, so we have to look at how far charges actually reflect value for money. These are the things we have to weigh in the balance over the next few weeks, but the bottom line is we want value for money for millions of pension savers.
Well, Adrian Boulding is Pension Strategy Director at Legal & General, and he joins me live now. We just heard there from the Pensions Minister, Steve Webb, telling me that the problem with making the cap too low is that only 2 or 3 of the big pension providers could really stomach that kind of cap, and that would actually reduce competition, which in the end wouldn't be good for the consumer.
No, we think the Minister's being too timid here. And it really is a story of new customers getting great value for money and old customers not enjoying that same level of value. When we're seeing new pension schemes being sold today, a whole range of pension providers are offering them at a charge of 0.5% or less. But existing employers who've got existing pension schemes are typically on higher charges of that, sometimes 0.75, sometimes as high as 1, and they are very often not joining in and not moving their schemes to get the better value that's available in the marketplace today. That's why we're pushing the government to say they should make a rule on employers to say they must provide a pension scheme for their auto-enrolled staff at a charge of no more than 0.5% a year.
But Mr. Boulding, what about that other point made by Minister Webb there, that you get what you pay for, that these fees do go towards something, that if you pay less, the service customers will be getting will be far less good?
No, this is about scale, and the auto-enrolment project, which the government have introduced, has brought great scale to the pensions industry. 2 million people auto-enrolled so far, another 2 million coming next year. The advantages of that scale is it has driven down the costs to providers where providers have large, efficient platforms. And the argument is, in fact, there are several providers out there today selling plans at 0.5% or less, and employers with existing plans need to move to those more efficient platforms, and they will get genuine economies of scale for their employees. But I think it will need government action to prod them to make that happen.
Mr. Boulding, isn't it a little bit odd that you are the only pension provider out there that's demanded this lower cap? Is this a bit of a PR stunt on the part of Legal & General?
No, I think we're actually acting as a force for good for the consumer, and you will see people like the Consumers Association alongside us asking for the same thing. I think slightly on a moral front, we are a little bit unhappy with this concept that new customers get one rate, older, more loyal customers in some firms are getting a worse rate. And it's really back down to that age-old story of can you get good value for money for your existing customers, as well as just having a nice lead price for new customers.
OK, Adrian Boulding, Pension Strategy Director at Legal & General, many thanks for joining me this